He will never let me go. By KitsuneGeisha. I used to be in a bad marriage. I made excuses because my ex didn't physically hit me. When I finally was fed up and left him, I moved into a house with my long-term best friend. My ex started stalking me and tracking me through Facebook. He knew about texts that were in my phone that he had no way to read unless he had some kind of spying app. He knew where I was, how long it took me to get home from work, who I spoke with during the day. It was early one morning. The sun was coming up, and the light through my window was enough to disturb my sleep. I rolled over in bed and extended my arm. That's when I felt it. Someone else's arm. I jumped out of bed, screaming an unnatural scream, almost hyperventilating. There lay my ex, wide awake. He calmly looked at me and coldly said, "I missed you." Running through my panicked mind was the thought that he was going to end my life. He would never let me leave. I screamed, "You can't do this, it's creepy." He got up and replied, "What? Can't I come see my wife?" I could tell right then that he didn't love me. He felt he owned me. I spent what felt like an eternity trying to calm down and placate him enough to get him out of my house. I should have called the police, but I had been mentally abused for 5 years, and I was terrified to call the police on him. I stopped staying at my house after that. I stayed the night with any friend that would host me. It's been over 2 years, and I am still trying to legally divorce him. He just won't let me go. Thought my boyfriend got home from work. It wasn't my boyfriend. By Heartx3jess. My boyfriend, who I live with, works as a teacher in a town about 15 minutes away by train. He gets home more or less at the same time every day, give or take an hour or so. I, on the other hand, work from home. In late January of this year, we'd gotten in a pretty big fight about something stupid. I can't even remember what it was about now. It was one of those fights where we didn't speak to each other, text, call, or anything the whole next day. So, one afternoon, I was lying in bed getting work done. It was a Tuesday, and I was pretty sure his last class finished at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays, meaning he'd surely be home at 2:30. But around 1 p.m., I heard the front door open and shut. I thought, I guess he's home an hour early today. It was normal for him to skip his last class every once in a while, so I didn't really think anything of it. In fact, I was mostly mentally preparing for the awkward post-fight, "How's it going?" conversation. So I continued to lay in bed and do my work and wait for him to come in and change his clothes. The bedroom door was closed, and I had earplugs sort of half in, as I usually do when I'm working. But I could hear the heavy footsteps of him walking around the apartment, as he always does. If we hadn't been mid-fight and I wasn't so preoccupied with the awkwardness of it all, I might have noticed it was strange how slow the footsteps were, or how long he spent walking around the living room. But I was caught up in the dramatics of the fight and didn't think about it. I was laying there, waiting for him to finally come in. Finally, the bedroom door slowly opened just a few inches. I turned my head towards the door and prepared to give him a sort of awkward, "We've been fighting for 24 hours, huh?" smile. But the door didn't open any more than a few inches. I looked and saw that it was a woman's hand with red nail polish on the doorknob. Whoever was there slowly closed the door just as they had opened it, without entering the room. I jumped out of bed, ripped out my earplugs, and sort of froze there for a few seconds while thinking rapidly. My first thought, that was not my boyfriend. Then I thought, could that have been his mom, his sister, the landlady? For some reason, I concluded that surely it was his mom or sister. So I opened the bedroom door and walked into the living room. There wasn't anyone there, but the room smelled heavily of women's perfume. Then I came to my senses and realized his mom and sister don't have keys and have never come over before. The landlady has never entered without permission. This was a stranger. I ran back into the room and shut the door, now shaking heavily. There is a balcony connected to the bedroom, so despite the cold January rain, I stood on the balcony and called my boyfriend. He picked up and I asked him if his mom or sister might come over unannounced. He told me, "No, don't move, I'm calling the police." The police were there in minutes and searched the whole apartment. Of course, nobody was there by this point. It was weird though. Nothing was missing from the apartment despite us keeping a jar full of money right in the entrance. Nothing was even touched. In fact, it seemed like the intruder came straight to the bedroom, saw my legs on the bed, panicked, and left. Plus, you can't open that big wooden front door without a key. For a few days, my boyfriend and I were convinced it was just the landlady being nosy. I began to feel better. Nevertheless, we demanded that the landlady change our locks. When she came to change them with her husband, she made a discovery. There was a square area by the keyhole that had been scratched away with something. The landlady said, surely someone used tools to break into the apartment. Then a day or two later, my boyfriend told me, "I have to tell you something, but don't freak out." He told me that the orange kitchen scissors were missing. I obviously freaked out. I tore the apartment apart, looking for those scissors. It's been 6 months, and those scissors are gone. So the whole thing is just creepy and weird. A stranger breaks into a nice apartment, but doesn't touch or take anything valuable. Not even the money jar sitting right in the entrance. Takes scissors from the kitchen, goes straight to the bedroom, sees someone in bed, and immediately leaves. I never got to meet the person who opened the door that day. I hope I never do. Further information. Me and my buddy Deacon proposed that the boyfriend might have given the key to someone that Heartx3jess wasn't supposed to know about, like a side chick situation. It would explain the perfume, creeping in, nails done, and going straight for the bedroom. Heartx3jess replied, "I definitely thought about that when I was considering all of the options, but I really doubt it because whoever broke in didn't have a key. They used some sort of tool to break in. I work from home, so I don't think any sketchy affairs could be planned here. My significant other is the most private person in the world and wouldn't even give a key to his own family members." At another point, Heartx3jess makes it clear that it couldn't have been the landlady because I was super suspicious of her at first because she wasn't answering her phone and was out of town at the time. But when I finally saw her in person, I wasn't suspicious anymore. She's somewhere around 70 years old, and the hands I saw were definitely not elderly.
Unknown language. Attempting translation. Integrating new PDA data.